हरिः ओम्। श्रीगणेशाय नमः। यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि प्रतिभान्ति स्थितानि च यत्रैवोपशमं यान्ति तस्मै सत्यात्मने नमः। ज्ञाता ज्ञानं तथा ज्ञेयं द्रष्टा दर्शनदृश्यभूः कर्ता हेतुः क्रिया यस्मात् तस्मै ज्ञात्यात्मने नमः। स्फुरन्ति सीकरा यस्मात् आनन्दसाम्बरे वनौ सर्वेषां जीवनं तस्मै ब्रह्मानन्दात्मने नमः। ब्रह्मानन्दात्मने नमः। वेदोदधिं समुन्मथ्य ज्ञानरत्नं समुद्धृतं येन तस्मै वसिष्ठाय गुरुणां गुरवे नमः। वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। सद्गुरु भगवान की जय। सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। शब्द ब्रह्म की जय। सरस्वती महारानी की जय। योग वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। हरि ओम। हम लोग योग वशिष्ठ का निर्वाण प्रकरण पूर्वार्ध का 95वां अध्याय का आलोचना कर रहे हैं, जिसमें चूड़ाला और शिखीध्वज की कहानी में चूड़ाला के उपदेश शिखीध्वज को महात्याग के ऊपर हमारे विचार के अंदर है। क्या वो कह रहे हैं? कल कुंभमुनि ने कहा था, भद्र, यह जो सृष्टि रूपी जगत भ्रांति है, उसमें प्राणियों के प्राक्तन कर्मों की उपभोगार्थता होने से आपकी कथित प्रणाली के अनुसार अर्थ क्रिया सामर्थ्य और दुख आदि की हेतुता है, क्योंकि सत्य संकल्प परमात्मा की भावना ही तत् अर्थ क्रिया आदि रूप से तथाकथित सृष्टि में परिणत हुई है। इसमें दृष्टांत जल है। जैसे जल में रुक्षता या पीठ बनने की योग्यता है ही नहीं, परंतु शीत के कारण पत्थर रूप बर्फ रूप बने हुए जल में दीर्घ काल के बाद स्फटिक आदि रूप में परिणाम हो जाने पर रुक्षता पीठ आदि बन जाने की अर्थ क्रिया प्रसिद्ध है। बस यही प्रकार इस ब्रह्मात्मक सृष्टि के विषय में भी जानना चाहिए। कल कुंभ मुनि सिखी ध्वज का प्रश्न का उत्तर देते हुए बोले थे कि देखो राजा, तुम जो बोल रहे हो अर्थ क्रियाकारिता इस दुनिया में देखा जाता है। भोजन करने से क्षुधा निवृत्ति रूपी संतुष्टि प्राप्ति होती है, तो इसको तुम कैसे कहोगे कि संसार नहीं है? उसके उत्तर में कुंभ मुनि यही बोला था कि देखो, ये इसी प्रकार परमात्मा के द्वारा सोचा गया है, कल्पना किया गया है, ऐसा होगा। उसमें समय पा करके जो संतुष्टि रूपी फल तुमको दिखाई दे रहा है, अथवा जैसे जल कुछ समय के बाद परिवर्तन के कारण परिस्थिति के अनुसार वही जल जो जिसके ऊपर कुछ आधार नहीं रखा जा सकता है, अथवा जिस जल को हम हाथ में नहीं रोक सकते हैं, निकल जाता है, वही बर्फ का रूप लेकर के कालांतर में स्फटिक मणि बन करके वो सारे अर्थ क्रियाकारिता को दिखाता है। इसी प्रकार ये जो संसार में तुम देखते हो कि अर्थ क्रियाकारिता दिखाई दे रहा है, ये सचमुच नहीं, और कार्य का कारण ढूंढते ढूंढते हम आखिर कहीं नहीं पहुंचते हैं। वो आवर्त में फंस जाते हैं, वो चक्र में फंस जाते हैं। कारण कार्य बन जाता है, कार्य कारण बन जाता है। इसीलिए एक दूसरे का कारण बनना स्वाभाविक है। ये जो व्यवहारिक दुनिया का सत्यता, इसके ऊपर हम आस्था नहीं रख सकते हैं। Yesterday what we saw, Kumbh Muni explained as the answer to experience of the king Sikhidhwaj. Sikhidhwaj asked, when we see the result of our action in this world, how can you say this world does not exist when there is cause and effect visible here? So Kumbh Muni says, this cause and effect goes on changing in a cycle, just as the water becomes hard, becomes snow, and then in the course of time and changes, it becomes hard, which you can hold. This is because it is thought by this way by the absolute thinker. The original or the creator who has started this process of thinking in this way, it has to go through this process, or else it will not be seen in this way. We have seen, we have discussed it. The water flows downwards, it doesn't flow upward because it is thought like that in the very beginning. The trees grow upward, not into the earth. It is thought in that way by the fast thinker. So whatever you think, that appears before you. So also this world is. Whatever the creator, the fast thinker, thinks about this world, just as he thinks, so it appears to be. In course of time, it gets a solid form. The subtle becomes solid by repetition or by the force of time, space, conditions and changing phenomena. The subtle becomes gross. See the vapors or the mist, by continuous change, it appears to be crystal, so hard that becomes a cloud one day, cloud becomes water, water becomes ice, ice becomes charcoal and diamond also. So in this way, the subtle becomes gross in course of time, situations, conditions and changing. So this world, what you see as a solid, some form and name, this is nothing but the thought of the first being. That first being is the creator who thinks in this way. His thoughts solidifies and it appears before you. All these are nothing but a thought process which is ever changing. So we cannot rely upon this. यही कारण है कि ज्ञानाभ्यास के परिपाक क्रम से मूला ज्ञान का शैथिल्य हो जाने पर जगत को क्रमशः सूक्ष्मता हो जाने से अज्ञान के साथ साथ जगत का भी नाश हो जाता है। यदि अज्ञान ज्ञानादि के अभ्यास से शिथिल हो गया तो उस प्रकार का अज्ञान जनित भ्रमात्मक संसार भी नष्ट ही हो गया। यह ज्ञानियों का मत है, क्योंकि अज्ञान का विनाश न होने पर जगत रूप आकार का विच्छेद किसी काल में भी नहीं हो सकता। So he gives the further explanation. Just as the subtle becomes gross, so also if you go on analyzing or backward march, similarly this gross becomes subtle one day. So if you go on analyzing these gross names and forms, this gross becomes subtle and dwindle in nothing. It becomes nothing. And we see practically here, it is said, and it is practically seen also, the earth has originated from water. The accumulation of darts of the water is known as earth. And water has its source in fire. Water is nothing but H2O, and hydrogen and oxygen, they are only fire. And fire gets originated from air, and air from sky or ether. So the subtle ether which we cannot hold or we cannot see as it is, we cannot think of it. It becomes solid in the course of time. You know, उसको क्यों रख देते, ठंडा करते हो यार? हाँ, उसको रखने के लिए लाते हैं क्या? छिपा दो, कल देना। ला करके रख देंगे, ठंडा होने से पिलाएंगे। The subtle becomes gross, gross becomes subtle. This is the changing phenomena of the nature. Everywhere it happens like this. Everything. The subtle seed where there is the DNA of the tree, it one day appears as a big tree by the course of time and by the course of changes. Our scientists say, and that is also in a way accepted by the philosophers. The origin of the sun and whole solar system. Long, long ago, when there was no creation, no such solar system or other systems in our galaxy, this solar system was some gaseous mass in the sky. Just as we see a little patch of cloud in the evening time in autumn sky. it appears and disappears within few minutes. Similarly, in the sky, somehow the subtle sky gets together and it becomes a gaseous mass. We can apply the same theory here. Sky becomes air and air becomes fire, fire becomes water and water becomes earth, solidifies. The subtle becomes solid. In the same way, this nebular hypothesis says there was in the beginning some mass of gas, and because nothing is stable here in this world, it goes on rotating on its center, revolving in the center. And as a result, there will be some forces which get created. So those forces will be of two kinds. One will attract it towards the center, one will repel it from the center. Centripetal and centrifugal force is created because of the rotation, because of the revolution. Then it goes on cooling itself in the course of long time, and a part of it gets away from the central mass, and that also has to revolve around this, because the central point has the greatest strength to attract it. Somehow, when centripetal force, because of revolution, becomes stronger than centripetal force, then a mass gets away and starts rotating around it. In this way, slowly the mass becomes many and rotates around the central mass. And in the course of time, because of force, because of movement, there will be friction. Friction means fire. That means it will be very hot mass. And in the course of time, everything becomes cooler and cooler. See, keep this little tea in your glass, keep it for some time. After half an hour, it becomes so cold, you cannot take it. Everything becomes, this is the natural law, because of natural laws. Everything gets cooler and cooler, and in this way, all these planets, we call it planets, and they rotate round the sun, the central mass. The central mass is yet hot, and all these other masses called planets, and from the planets get out some sub-planets, and they rotate round the planet, and at the same time they rotate around the sun also. In this way, all these planets, sub-planets are created, and in course of long time, This earth has become so cold, which is just favorable for this kind of living beings which we see on the earth plane. Or else there will be other living beings in other planets which are not similar to earth planet. Don't think everybody, all the living beings should be like human beings. Not so. Even there is life in water, in earth, clay, in fire. There are some beings in the fire also. And there will be some beings in the air also. And in sky also. The life is present everywhere. It is all pervading energy. That is called life. So similarly, if we go on analyzing all these processes, this is called nebular hypothesis. And nowadays, in modern science, they have found out some other, just thinking process. As you think, so it appears to be true to you. Whether what is right and what is wrong, nobody knows. Because nobody has seen the origin and the end, starting and the end. So, the modern scientists say there was some sound, the Big Bang theory. In the beginning, there was some sound. Sound is nothing but vibratory process, or it is energy. And because it vibrates, it is not stable. So it goes on changing. One becomes the other. In this way, one energy gets modified into the other energy according to its qualities or acting process, actions, whatever is seen in it. It is named differently. Same energy is called sound, light, electricity, magnet, so many things. We name differently. Process is the same. Changing process or vibrating process. So there was some sound in the very beginning, and from this sound all these gross objects have been originated in the long course of time. Billions and billions years ago, this earth was so hot, gaseous mass. Now also the central earth part is so hot. The surface has become cold. Everywhere in the nature we see it. So everything has originated from sound, and this also is declaration of Indian old scientists. They are none other than the great saints and sages who spent their whole lifetime to do research on it. By meditation, they found out all these theories. Meditation means steadiness. When you get steadied, then only you can see the changing or speedy phenomena. You can understand something. If you change and the other process is changing before you, nothing you can understand. So by absolute steadiness, that is samadhi, these people, great saints, great scientists, they found out the original method started from imbalancing state. Imbalancing state is called vibratory process, or call it sound. Because of friction, there will be sound. So sound is the origin of this universe. And that is nothing but imbalanced state of balanced state. Balanced state is all pervading and it is present everywhere. That is called the absolute truth. And this imbalanced state is everywhere we see. So that is called also the vibrated process, that is prana. Prana means activation or movement. If once it is started, then it will go on motivating others. So in this way, prana is all pervading. So you cannot say there is no life on Jupiter or Mars or Moon. There is life, but that life is not similar to earthly lives. That is some other different kind of life which you may not observe, you may not see by your gross eyes. Everything is in the process of subtle and gross. Just as we see in the dawn, how slowly nobody can exactly demarcate where how much darkness is disappearing and how much light is entering in the dawn. Slowly we see within 2-3 hours the whole night's darkness has gone and the bright sunshine has appeared. In the same way, everything goes on. Evening, the light disappears slowly in darkness and pitch dark night appears before us. Everything is in a slow process. That's how we cannot exactly see what is happening. But everything is under the process of changing. Nothing is stable here. That is called the play of energy. World is nothing but, universe is nothing but dance of energy. Though the modern scientists have come to understand this much now, the old scientists of India, they have discovered it long before, long before. The Eastern science and Western science differ here. Only difference is the Western science believes on visibility and Eastern science does not believe that much. They go further ahead to believe what is not visible, also present. It is not visible to your so-called gross eyes or your senses, but beyond your senses there is something which one is bound to accept by logic, by examples, by experience. They have come to this conclusion. जोक है? अच्छा, there is life in that also. There is life in the plants. There is life in the stones also. Have you experimented in soft sandy platform? If you keep, there are some kinds of round pebbles found in Ganga bank or somewhere else also we get it. It is polished round some stones, some pebbles. Just keep it at evening on some spot on the very fine sandy platform, and next morning you see it has gone away and the path also is seen. It has changed its place and gone somewhere else. I have seen it, I have done experiment. People say, but it is real, it is practically seen. What happens? Scientifically, process is different. Process is the same, but looking at the process, the method is different. Because of cold and heat, there will be movement in the stone. There will be pressure on the stone, so it has to move. And we call it prana, the moving agent, activating agent. That is, we call prana. It is present everywhere. Nowhere it is absent. The momentum is seen everywhere, in some way or other. In this way, when we come to our creation, scientifically, according to modern science, according to old science, everywhere we see the same thing. The subtle becomes gross, and that becomes visible to gross senses. And the subtle things, they can be seen by the intellectual eyes or intuitional eyes. That is also seen by the great seers. In this way, our Kumbha Muni explains to Sikhidhwaj, my dear king, what you see as visible world, it is not so. Agyan ko sithil bana dena. If you go on in the same way backward, you will reach the origin. अज्ञान को शिथिल बना देने में एकमात्र कारण है इंद्रिय निरोध के अभ्यास में बाह्यावृत्तियों का शिथिलीकरण, समस्त बाह्याकार वृत्तियों का जो अपक्षय है, वही क्रमश तत्वज्ञान के संपादन द्वारा परम पद का साक्षात्कार हो जाने पर इस भ्रमात्मक प्रपंच की शांति में कारण हो जाता है। Then after discussing all these analytical process, she says, Kumbhamuni says, my dear king, if you go on contemplating over this, then the process you should adopt, slowly giving up of the outward external objects which are gross, where you are ever engaged in observing and dealing with them. You are so extrovert. Slowly you have to draw your mind thinking process from external world and become introvert. The process is to give up all the names and forms of the outer world and become introvert. That means not to think of any names and forms. Forms are solidified, subtle objects. So slowly when you give up all these gross, visible objects where you are ever engaged in dealing with, slowly your mind becomes calm and quiet, and in the end the mind stops thinking, because mind has a principle to have support over some objects. Why it is so? Because thoughts have to be supported by some objects by the help of senses. Senses take the thoughts and they have contact with outer objects for a moment and they go on changing, and whatever information or impressions they get from the outer object, they bring it in impression form, subtle form, and they deposit it in the subtlemost storehouse of the impressions, that is called subconscious mind, a subtlemost part of the mind. This is what is called chitta, or the subconscious mind. In this way, the whole life goes on. When this process is on, your mind has to go out by the gateway of the senses, and it collects all these temporary haphazard informations by contact with the sense objects and bring them and accumulate it. And in this way, this impression again, when gets favorable conditions, it again goes out to multiply. One multiplying into many, this is the creative process. One becomes many, and because of this, all the misunderstanding gets solidified. We we have accepted all these visible world to be true because of repeated practice. How it happens? One becomes many. When one tries to visualize itself, it appears to be many. This is why the process is delusive, illusive. See practically. Yesterday also we discussed on this. These triads, the seer, seen and seeing, when it is applied outside, then we see the difference between these three. The process of seeing is called action, and it will have reaction, and the doer is seer. He becomes different from the process seeing, and the object is seen by the seeing process by the seer. In this way, seer, seeing and seen object, they appear to be different from each other. But if you are introvert, if you see within, see yourself, you can see yourself. I am the seer. My eye is the process of seeing, and I see myself, my hand, my legs, my body, and in this way, I, the body, becomes many, but yet it is one. Whether it is one or many, everywhere it is like this. One tree, there is no tree, it is differentiated from each other. Every part is different from the other part, and it becomes many, though as a whole it is one. When one becomes many, the illusion starts, whether it is one or many. In this way, the mind is ever restless to find out what is what. Always there are doubts. There is no life without doubts. There is no being without doubts. When there will be two, there will be doubts. And every moment the intellect goes on deciding, and again the two decisive thoughts have to be decided to be one. In this way, the league match goes on. League match. There will be several parties, several teams, and all the two parties, they will fight against each other. The winner will fight with the other winner, then other winner, the winner and winner, they fight against each other. The third, other winner comes out. This is the natural process. When two forces clash against each other, the third diagonal force is generated. This is the process of the nature. So this goes on continuously without stop. This is the process of thinking. So it ever goes on restlessly without stop. If you can stop it by withdrawing the mind from outer objects and centrifying it on the one center within, that is taken as the heart, or any one point anywhere. It may be outside also. On one point it should be fixed. The movement should be stopped. That means in yogic language, chitta vritti nirodha, all the functioning of the mind should be stopped. Then only we come to the center. When you are at the center, you see everything at a glance. Everything, all round vision you will have, and then only you can understand how all these circles are drawn on one center. They are endless. On one center we can draw innumerable circles. That is how the Vedas declared Anuranyan Mahato Mahyan. The truth is subtler than the subtlemost and grosser than the grossmost. When it expands, there is no end to it. When it contracts, there is no end to it. Subtler than the subtlemost and grosser than the grossmost. And we have understood the world in this way only. This is a bright example wherefrom we can understand how is this world, whole universe, and so also is the truth. Truth also is like that. It is subtler than the subtlemost and grosser than the grossmost. There is no end to its expansion and there is no end to its contraction. The cone, it holds all the angles. All the angles are here, and everything is seen here only within this. And this also is known as the black hole, the greatest hole, where everything can be held. There is no end to its expansion and there is no end to its contraction. This is how the truth and the creation is a mystery, mystery of all the mysteries. That is what we were discussing in the Gita class, the greatest mystery, and it is greatest revelation also. Everybody knows it. But yet, everybody is bewildered. What is what? Whether it is one or many. One appears as many, many appears as one. This is the illusory power. So, our great saint Kumbhamuni, he explains to the king Sikhidhwaj, O king, when you withdraw your mind from outer objects, your thought process slowly becomes introvert. You stop thinking, then only you will understand all these are illusory, visible world, and you will be able to renounce everything. That is called the highest renunciation. stoppage of mind is called highest renunciation. Not to accept anything at all. And that is the absolute neutral state. Indifference. That is how the ignorance will be wiped out. This manyness or oneness, this is called ignorance, and steadiness is called knowledge. Don't forget this. That steadiness is named as meditation or samadhi. समस्त बाह्याकार वृत्तियों का जो अपक्षय है, दिस डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ all these external movements of the mind, वही क्रमशः तत्वज्ञान के संपादन द्वारा परम पद का साक्षात्कार हो जाने पर, when it becomes introvert and realizes the truth which is never changing, then all these misunderstandings, ignorance will be evaporated. They will disappear as it is. And साक्षात्कार हो जाने पर इस प्रभातांक प्रपंच की शांति में कारण हो जाता है. Then that is the light of lights, self-effulgence light. Why? Because light is not this what we understand to be. Light is nothing but knowledge. From this light we see the objects. This is why we call it light. In darkness we don't see the objects. That is the absence of light or darkness. So, knowing the objects is called knowledge. Knowledge is light and darkness is ignorance. So when you are on the center, you have no movement. You understand everything at a glance, here and now. There is no time. It is beyond time, space, conditions, and names and forms. Then you understand everything. So it is called the self-effulgent light. And it destroys all your ignorance, that is darkness. लोक में भी अपक्षय पूर्वक ही स्थूल भावों का विनाश प्रसिद्ध है. In the relative world also we see, when we give up the solid objects, then we get little peace. व्यवहार में भी जिन देह आदि का अपक्षय हो जाता है, क्रमशः उनका पूर्व अवयवों के विनाश से स्वयं विनाश भी उपपन्न हो जाता है. He is giving the example of the body, how the body gets created and how it dissolves into the source. दर्शित रीति से क्रमशः ज्ञान की शिथिलता द्वारा जगत का बाध हो जाने पर ही अपने नित्य सिद्ध पूर्णता रूप पुरुष स्वभाव में प्रतिष्ठा हो जाती है। हे राजन, इसी अज्ञान नाश क्रम से ही पूर्णता स्वभाव वाले आप यदि पुरुष हैं, अतः आप आदि पुरुष हैं, अतः यह सारा प्रपंच मृग तृष्णा जल की तरह केवल ब्रह्म के स्वरूप में उदित होकर अवस्थित है, यह आप जानिए। When you withdraw the mind from external objects and be steadied in the center by introverting process or withdrawing of the mind from outer objects, then all these illusory names and forms, they will disappear, and your ignorance will disappear. Take it as the reality. शंका के बाद उपसंहार कर प्रस्तुत विषय का निगमन करते हुए कहते हैं, वास्तव में जो सृष्टि बनाने वाले आदि ब्रह्मा पितामह हैं, उनकी भी सत्ता है ही नहीं, इसलिए उनके द्वारा निर्मित प्रपंच की सत्ता हो ही कैसे सकती है। जो वस्तु असद वस्तु से सिद्ध की जाती है, वह त्रिकाल में भी सिद्ध नहीं हो सकती। नाउ if you can accept this analytical process and accept the truth to be the center of all these, which is known as the light of lights, and which is the real vision, all-round vision, which is called knowledge, and which destroys all these ignorance or darkness or misunderstanding of the names and forms, then you become the creator, the fast thinker, because you have withdrawn all your thought process from the creation, and then you have become the Adi Purush, the fast being, that fast being which otherwise we call as the grandfather or the creator, the primordial being who have started this thinking and whose thoughts have become solidified and appeared as this visible world. You have become that fast thinker, and then you will realize your existence also is not there as the thinker. The thinker is nothing but the thought. So they become identical. The thought is nothing but the thinker. There is no difference between thinker and thinking. So the creator also is a thought. So in Vishnu Sahasranam, what we chant every day, every name is, if you see analytically, it is a great scientific theory. Every name there, the name of the Absolute is called Satyamedha or Medhaj. The original thinker, the creator, is none other than the thought of the Absolute. When it takes a form, imaginary form, then we call it as the creator. The first thought that is taken as the creator, because thought process is a vibratory process that is nothing but sound only. And so the Vedas say, Onkara Satha Sabdasta Dvabeto Brahmana Pura Kantham Hitva Vinirjato Tasman Mangalika Bhubhav. From the womb of the Absolute came out two words, that is the Om and Atha. Two words. Om, the original sound, and then, Atha means then, because it is sound, a vibratory process, it cannot remain steady. So then means after that it has to multiply. Multiplication is called world. Thoughts multiplies and they take some name and form. This is called creation. So in the very beginning there was two words only. Those words, the first word is Om, the sound, the primordial sound, Om. Call it as you like, but Om seems to be one with all the sound. So this is how the great scientists have discovered this sound, Om. It becomes one with all the sounds. So we can accept it as the primordial sound. And of course then it has to multiply, it has to expand, it has to solidify, it has to change. All this process starts. So that first sound comes out of the womb of the Absolute. That is called the Satyamedha, the mind of the Absolute, the universal mind. That is called the creator. When we imagine some form, then that appears to be someone and we call it creator. So it should have all-round vision. It has to expand in all directions. So that is symbolically said, it will have 4 heads. 4 heads means to see all round. And 4 hands, it can do anything in any way. 4 hands and 4 eyes means, 4 heads means, who can act in an all-round manner and expand in all directions, work in all directions, present everywhere, and see everything at a glance, all the directions. That is called the creator, universal mind. So if you give a form, then this should be like this: 4 heads, 4 hands, and a body, and this is outcome of a flower. because life is hidden in the water. Same life starts from the air prana, and then it becomes more visible or more perceivable in fire, because fire has got form, and then it becomes still more visible and grossified in water. So we call water is the source of life. Life is nothing but this changing process. This is called evolutionary theory, evolutionary process. And it starts from the flower. Flower is nothing but the essence of the solidified dot of the water, which takes the form of, when it blooms, it expands, or the life starts expressing itself, then that is called the lotus. The flower originated from the mud in the bottom of the water. In this way, imaginations have to process. This is how the Indian scientists have thought over. All these are thoughts only. So, the Creator sits on the lotus. If you give a form, then that form should appear on the lotus. So, when we say the life is originated from water, we have to say life is originated from flower also. Flower is the first expression of life, and then fruits, and the seeds, and goes on multiplying. In this way, imaginations go on. All these are imaginary process only. The great seers have imagined in this way, and they also emphatically, again and again, they have said all these are imaginary process. Yatha purvam akalpayat. He thought as before. This is not new, it is ever old. And ever new also, because it is changing. Ever old and ever new. There is no beginning, there is no end to it. So if you see in between, then you have to say just as before. Because it is a cycle. So there is no beginning, there is no end. Everything is in a cycle. This is called the unseen cycle of the creation. Unseen cycle, Gupta Chakra, the mysterious cycle of the creation. It goes on like this. And this is how Lord explains us in Gita also. When day starts of the Creator, the thought process has to stop somewhere, rest somewhere, and again it starts. That is called changing process. You have to stop and proceed. Hop, step and jump. This is the whole process. Hop, step and jump. You have to stop and then jump. Without stoppage you cannot walk. You have to stop for a moment and then you proceed further. That is the process followed everywhere in the nature. Stop and start. Stop and start. That's how there will be a gap, and changing is possible then. If it is continuous, there is no change. Continuation has no change. If it stops in between, then only you see the change. Here is our magic card. कहाँ गया रे? अरे यार, this is called world. Are you able to see everyone? World. Stop and go, stop and go. Everywhere there is a stoppage or a change or a break or a gap. And really the background is continuous. And the process is in this way. This is world, this is the truth. World is a changing process, truth is continuous. That's all. That is the background, and changing phenomena over the stage. Changing phenomena is nothing but a drama, and stage is never changing, over which the drama goes on. It goes on forever and ever. And this is how the one becomes many. The primordial sound which takes a form that is seen on the lotus as the creator having a imaginary form, the universal being, and that is starting point where we can go up to form. And then Kumbhamuni says, O king, if you withdraw from manyness to oneness, then you become the primordial being, the first being, the creator. And you are also nothing but a thought. That thought also disappears. Just as we give our practical example, when you are moving fast in a car and all of a sudden you brake the car, then it will stop, of course, and there will be a little friction, there is possibility of fire, and then if you lose the brake, then without starting the car, it moves ahead because of the momentum. The momentum does the speed, gives the speed. Because it had some momentum which is stopped all of a sudden, then that momentum remains in the vehicle for some time. Just as the twilight in the evening time or the light in dawn, it prolongs for a little time. The momentum gets prolonged for a little time. Everywhere it is like that. In the rainbow sea, one color becomes the other slowly, slow process. One is changed into the other in a slow process. You cannot have any demarcating line. Everywhere is like that. This is the law of nature. One slowly becomes the other. That is the process of energy also. not all of a sudden. And there will be a gap also between the two. So he says, when you have become the original thought, one thought, because you have a momentum, withdrawal momentum, then it will remain for some time and then it will disappear slowly. Just as the car stops all of a sudden, and then if you put the brake for a long time, that momentum disappears. If you lose the brake, then that momentum is seen. The car advances ahead. So, in samadhi also, in meditation also, the momentum remains for some time, the identity remains for some time, and slowly, automatically, it disappears and you become one with the Absolute. Only awareness remains there. You are not unaware of your existence, but you are not identified as something. Your identity is lost. Identity means the first thought. And this is how we say the Creator is first being, is nothing but the first thought of the Absolute. Imagination only. So this process should not be forgotten. This is the process in knowledge path. When you go on contemplating and withdrawing the mind from external names and forms, slowly you enter into samadhi. And yogic process, there are tricks, some skill, how to withdraw the mind from outward objects, some skillful process. And that also leads the same way. Karma yoga, the path of actions, also lead to the same aim. By negating the ego, not having the desires to have the result of your actions, thereby the ego slowly dwindles into nothing and you enter into the same region of silence. And in bhakti also, when you go on thinking of your deity, your favorable form of the Lord, then you merge in that form, and that form also disappears in the awareness. Every path leads to the same goal. All the roads lead to Rome. That is what I was telling you. So don't change your path. Stick to your path. You will reach there. The world is round. If you start from here, you will reach here only. Don't change the direction. If you change the direction, you will not reach here. व्यवहार में भी जिन देह आदि का अपक्षय हो जाता है, क्रमशः उनका पूर्व अवयवों के विनाश से स्वयं विनाश भी उपपन्न हो जाता है. You know how the person dies? You ask the doctors, they will say. The prana, the energy, vital energy, works through the nerve system all over the body, starting from the brain till the end of the nail of your leg. Even till the end of your hair, the prana works. And that's how the growth is possible and decay also is possible. When the prana withdraws itself, then decay starts. When prana grows, then growth appears. So at the time of death, the prana slowly withdraws itself from the external ends of the body, and slowly it accumulates all the prana in different forms. They get accumulated in the heart. That is the origin of the prana. And then it has to get out from the body. It finds some way out. So these 9 gates of the body, they are always open. So the prana, according to its momentum of the karmas, what karma it has done in the whole lifetime, it is forced to get out by the nature of the karma. So it gets out either by eyes or nose or mouth or ear or anus also, or by genital or anyway. But the yogi's prana goes out from the top here. The Brahman, they say. But the realized soul's prana never gets out. नतस्य प्राणान उत्क्रामन्ते, उसका प्राण बाहर नहीं जाता है. Just as they give the example, just as when the outer covering of the form of the earthen pot is broken, the inner space never goes out somewhere. It remains as it is, and it becomes one with the outer sky. When the pot is broken, the inner sky never goes out. There is no going or coming of the sky. It remains as it is. So, if this is accepted and known and realized, then his prana never goes out, it remains as it is. He merges there itself. He becomes one with the Absolute, then not there. The prana never goes out. It becomes one with the absolute sky, that is the heart. The absolute equilibrium state. This is how...
Swamiji, when you say being one with the absolute, the inner sky in the pot is already in the absolute.
Yes. You imagine you have given a demarcation line by the form of the pot. Your imagination is gone, means the things remain as it is. Nothing happens to anything. But this is not accepted by ignorant persons. So they think the prana goes out because they are identical with the individual body, individual prana. Really speaking, the prana is universal. Prana is ever present everywhere, but in different form, in subtle form, in gross form. Your prana as individual prana is gross prana. So it has to dwindle into the subtle prana. So imaginarily it has to go out. Only imagination. Nothing happens to anything. There is no world at all. So how the prana will go out? There is no prana also. All these are imaginary process. There is no prana, there is no names and forms, there is no world, there is no you nor I. Nothing is there. All these are process of thinking. Everything is there in the thinking process. So, what happens to your thinking process? As you think, so it appears to you. If you think you are the individual gross prana, then it has to go out. That is the thinking process. And it will go out according to some force. That is also your thoughts. And you think I have done some actions, you will have the result of it, you will enjoy it. So you have to get out. All these are thinking process only. There is neither any world, nor there is heaven or hell. There is neither you nor I. All these are thinking process in the universal thinking process, your individual process. You have solidified yourself as some individual being, limited yourself. The thought process are accumulated and have taken a form of individual being. That's all. The thoughts remain in thoughts. So, if this is understood and you have become one with the Absolute, in that case, there is no thought process, there is no outgoing of prana or incoming of prana. There is no life nor death. But it is not accepted. You are identifying yourself with the thought process and accumulated yourself and solidify yourself as some limited individual being. So everything will happen in the thought process. Really nothing happens, but who is going to accept it? We are not ready because we are so much indulged in the thought process that we cannot give up this thinking. It is repeatedly solidified. So birth and death is there. So prana has to go out, and then we have to find out some way, and that should be directed by karma. All these are thinking process, nothing else. In reality, from the absolute point of view, nothing happens. Keep quiet. But it is hard to accept, difficult to accept it. So as long as you are thinking, so you have to purify your thinking process. That is, sadhana means a purifying process. You have to slowly minimize your thought process and make it slower and slower. That is called purification process. And then when you can reach the center and steadied yourself, the work is done. Now there is no question, no answer, no problem, no solution. But till then, There is a but. Till then, what are you? You have to think out. What are you? If you are a being, then you have to go through all these process, because this is the universal thought process. You cannot escape from it. You are helplessly within it. That is what in Gita yesterday we were discussing. Prakriti vijanti bhutani. All these beings helplessly, they swayed away by my nature. Nature is thinking process, manifesting process. So you are helpless. If you accept your helplessness, then you are full of hope. You are hopeful. This is only the question of acceptance and being it. As you think, so you become. If you think there is no world, really there is no world. There is no prana, there is no process, there is no body. You are not this body, not this visible world. So, whatever you are, you have to find out. You are yourself. As you think, so you are. If you are a body, your prana has to go out. If you are not a body, then there is no question of going out or coming in. So tomorrow we shall see further the explanation, the highest explanation of Kumbhamuni to the king, so that in this way you will be able to be steadied, and automatically the Mahatyag, the all renunciation will take place by itself. You have renounced everything. Renunciation means withdrawal of mind from external objects and centrifying it on the center. That is called renunciation. You have renounced the outer world, and you have to renounce yourself also. The renunciate should be renounced. Then the absolute remanence is absolute awareness, that is called existence absolute, awareness absolute, and bliss absolute. That remains in the end, and that solves all the renunciation process. You have renounced everything. Tomorrow we shall see further. There is no way out. You have to, one day or other, you have to accept this. This is how the great Indian scientists, they are called saints and sages, they have done research over it and they have given it to us. This is called Aptavachan, the words of the realized souls, and that is known as Veda. Veda means the knowledge itself. This is the knowledge. Hari Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevamasisyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadguru Bhagavan ki jai, Satchidananda Bhagavan ki jai, Sabda Brahma ki jai, Saraswati Maharani ki jai, Jogavasini Bhagavan ki jai. Hari